again, I'm Anne-Louise DePalo, your host for the Divorce Healing Center. So today I want to talk a little bit about COVID. It seems as if COVID is here to stay, whether it's the original virus, the Delta variant, or the Omicron. This has been affecting cases as well, and situations involving custody and decision-making for medical decisions. There was a recent case in Brooklyn, New York by Justice Sunshine about a family who had joint legal custody and joint decision-making. They also, in their agreement, had specifics about COVID, and it was very clear in their agreement that they would follow the proper procedures as recommended by the city, state, and the CDC. What happened was the mother, the wife, ex-wife, complained that the ex-husband was no longer following the guidelines. There was also issues about vaccinations for the children. As a result, she brought an action asking that the judge make the ex-husband comply. The judge decided that there was specifics in their agreement that needed to be followed, and first he would have to have a trial on one, whether or not the father actually did violate the procedures, and two, whether or not this rises to a level of the parties not being able to decide medical decisions, and then he would discuss and consider a possibility of doing sphere of influence, period. And that was the end of that. And then they went on to do the hearing. So this raises two questions that we need to consider and really be aware of today. The first being, if you are in the process of doing a parenting agreement, you may want to consider something about how you're going to deal with COVID or any kind of COVID-related viruses or diseases in the future. It seems as if it has its own season and it will pop up again probably by next fall or winter. And the second thing is sphere of influence. Maybe that's something that you also want to consider with regard to medical decisions. Can you both agree on medical decisions? Do you have the same world view with regard to those things? Are one of you better suited to make medical decisions, such as someone is a healthcare practitioner, a nurse or a doctor, a physician's assistant, or a pharmacist? Of course, this doesn't mean that there isn't going to be consultation, but if you can't decide, then the person who has that sphere of influence would make the decision. Also, there's other spheres of influence when you draft your parenting plans. You can have a sphere of influence for extracurricular activities, a sphere of influence with regard to schooling or education, and that would usually go to the parent that might have more of the expertise, makes those decisions. Perhaps the person on extracurricular is the coach for the teams that the children that participate in, or they themselves are an athlete, though they may have a better understanding of the extracurricular activities and issues that arise and what to sign the children up for if you can't agree together. So sphere of influence is definitely something to consider when you are doing your parenting agreement, and also to think about whether or not you would want to put something in about COVID or any other type of a pandemic that might arise in the future. And again, when you are doing a parenting agreement, make sure that you have the resources that you can both sit down, speak about this, and work with your attorneys or a parent coordinator or a therapist to try to anticipate what may come up in your parenting for the agreement. And then once you have an agreement, putting something in saying that you will go to a mediator, a parent coordinator, or a family therapist to try to resolve any issues that do come up rather than automatically going back to court. I had mentioned in other episodes that a lot of agreements now have that provision in there that the parties must first seek a mediator to try to mediate before they can bring a lawsuit and go back to court for an enforcement or modification. And I think this is a good thing because it'll force people to try to at least discuss it, and it'll give you the avenue and the venue to actually have a discussion. Because as I've also talked about in in previous episodes, when you're in litigation, there's very little communication and very little dialogue. So, and people never really get to be heard. And that's one of the benefits of doing mediation, collaborative law, or working with a parent coordinator, because you can be heard. What your issues are or what concerns you have can be addressed, and you really get down to what is behind a lot of the problems that arise. This is Anne-Louise DePalo. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button. Please share it if it's a video that you think might help someone else, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And of course, please feel free to comment in the comments section with regard to this video or any other questions you have and ideas for future episodes. Till then, I'm Anne-Louise DePalo, and be well.